Hello everyone, Jeff Darrington here, Director of Technical Marketing, and today I'd like to walk you through some of the new features in Graylog version 6.2. I've broken them down into 5 different groups: new inputs and options, updated content hub, data management features, events and alerts updates, and asset parameterized dashboards. Let's get into the first group. To start, we've added some new capabilities when creating an input and setting up additional required configurations to ingest data through the new input mode wizard. We've added an input diagnostics tool to help you understand all of your related failures that might be occurring with your input. We've added multiple new inputs for sources of data like Sophos Central Input, which includes Illuminate Spotlight content, Mimecast input for collecting Mimecast data, which also incorporates Illuminate Spotlight content, and OpenTelemetry with gRPC logs for compliant applications, and finally, a Microsoft Graph input for the activity logs. Let's take a look at this. Now with your Graylog inputs, if you've got some currently configured, you'll notice a new option. I'm going to check out my Beats input, and you'll see this option for input diagnostics. This will break down everything that's going on for that particular input and what's happening inside it for logs. You'll see whether its state is running, you'll get the received traffic information, you'll get errors if there's any inputs for failing to process messages or failed to index messages. You'll see what streams messages are flowing into based on this input. And we also provide you an input if in failed state, how to troubleshoot it with some steps here in the input. As I mentioned earlier, we do have multiple new input types. You've got the Sophos input here with the client secret and configuration. You've got the Mimecast as well with a similar type configuration. The individual OpenTelemetry input with your configuration for TLS built in. And your final input here, the Microsoft Graph input. Now, looking at inputs directly, if you're going to create yourself a new input, you will see a slightly bit different change to the way you configure it. You wanted to configure, say, a NetFlow input. So when you launch that input, you'll notice you can put in your standard information, and I'll make it a global input, and you'll scroll down here, and I'm just going to launch this for now. And when you look up NetFlow and you see this right here, this new option, setup input. When you click that setup option, this is going to flow you through the different things that you'll need to do to bring in data into that input. So we help you out with that. For instance, in this case, there is a NetFlow Illuminate pack. So if you want to use the Illuminate pack, you can highlight this and actually move on to the next steps. If you don't want to do this, then you can skip Illuminate. But for this particular video, I'm going to show utilizing Illuminate. So if I click the Illuminate and I hit next, now what you can do is indicate what spotlight packs you might want to have that might be grayed out. So you'll click on that and you'll move to the next steps and launch the input, and it's going to pull those configurations together and start it automatically. The individual spotlights for Illuminate are being installed in the background, so you don't have to go to the content hub. What I'll do is show you next. The content hub is where we've made some changes. It's part of the inputs, but also part of the ingest into Graylog. So the diagnostics we'll see here, and now with the content hub, so under enterprise, you'll notice I have a little red notification at the top. When you click on enterprise and go to Illuminate, as long as you've installed the enterprise version, you may not have a license. You may have a license, depending on whether you do or you don't. You actually get some free packs in a non-licensed version. In this case, you'll see clearly which things are in Illuminate and which are not installed. And as you pick the individual ones, for example, this content pack, you'll see it illuminate on the right-hand side, and you can move forward with enabling these packs. So this is how you install any Illuminate packs that you might have in your Graylog. Next, looking at the new data management features. With new data management features in Graylog, you'll have data preview, which is reviewing data stored within the Graylog data lake, not impacted by the Graylog license, which will allow for selective data retrieval to retrieve this data from the data lake to align into more of something like an investigation or logs that you need in your hot storage. Let's look at that feature now. Looking at the storage, you'll see here under data lake and under setup, we've got some logs here for DNS going to the data lake. It will have been previously set up through the configurations for the Iceberg setup, and you'll see the different settings within here for different journal sizes and different things and the retrieval settings for the individual items themselves. But going back into the overview, you'll see we have some DNS server event messages. So when we go to the data lake and we go to preview, you'll notice some of the logs have already been previewed here. We've selected from about 5 minutes ago. You can then take this group of messages and select them. You can filter by field. So I'm going to use as an example an event source, and I'm going to use a particular user, J Duffield, and update the filter. And you'll notice when I do a search, it will filter this data down to this specific user, and I can highlight that data and then click retrieve logs. And now I can specify the range of the data for time range of when you want to retrieve those logs. So if you're doing an investigation or you're doing anything that is very specific to a time range, you can pull these out of the data lake and bring them into data node and into the hot storage inside of Graylog for fast search and add these to different investigations inside of Graylog. Now, next, with the events and alerts updates, we have quite a few changes here. We have a new look and options available for alerts with charts, filters, and actions. We've added updates to the threat coverage widget in the Graylog security section of the homepage. In 6.2, we are supporting Sigma rules version 2 support with correlation rule support. And we've added detection chain risk amplifiers. This is how Graylog risk scoring differentiates false positives with actual attack campaigns. Let me show you these new updates. Looking at the alerts and events changes we made, if we go to the general perspective and we go to alerts, you'll notice some new things here. Obviously, you can search the alerts, but we also added filters for the type of filters, the priority, the timestamp that you might want to hone in on, or the event definition or aggregation over a given time frame. On the right-hand side, you're going to see the real-time updates, how often you want to update these so you can see a constant scrolling of what's happening with alerts. The chart, obviously, which will indicate what kinds of numbers of alerts that are happening over time. And below, you're going to see bulk options now. So if you had a couple alerts, if you select those and you select the bulk options, you can select an investigation and attach them. You can send notifications, or if you want, you can replay those searches that fired those events. And if we move over to the security perspective, you'll notice under security events, it's pretty much the same, except we did add an additional item in here with the MITRE tactics. They're being mapped. So as these rules fire, they are aware of the MITRE attack techniques. So they're graphing those as they're occurring. So you have a good understanding of what tactic is actually being detected inside of Graylog. Down below, you're going to see a detection chain amplifier. This amplifier increases risk scoring exponentially as more evidence of the adversary's attack chain is recognized. So reducing false positive load with automatic evidence corroboration. This works in tandem with the asset risk model introduced in 6.1, enabling triage for high-risk assets based on activities in common to the asset and association detection chains, even for previous activities targeting other assets. So that will give you additional functionality in there. The threat coverage widget, you saw a quick splash of that. You'll notice we have a change to the security homepage. We've got investigation counts, assets, and system alerts and alerts below. You also have the ability now with the threat coverage widget to improve your coverage. This allows guidance to enable detections that are effective with existing data sources to avoid enabling detection content that's not really replicable to your environment. As new Spotlight packs become available, content coverage will change. Similarly, as the Illuminate content enabled for the new inputs, the coverage will change to reflect the detection content available for that new data source that you might take on. So as you select that, you have the ability to go in and actually select the rules and enable those individual content packs accordingly for those rules. That ends our step through of the new features in Graylog version 6.2. To find out more, please go to graylog.org for more information.